Tonight, on To The Point. Sacramento city leaders looking at budget cuts.
The city is facing a budget deficit with cuts on the table, including the skate park behind me. What else will be affected and how that'll impact the city?
Plus, the trial begins for the man accused of deadly stabbings in Davis in 2023. What happened in court today? President Trump's immigration crackdown escalates. Tonight, why he wants to reopen Alcatraz and offer migrants money to leave. And the preparations underway tonight to choose the next pope and shape the Catholic Church's future. Good evening. Thank you so much for starting your week with us. On To The Point, I'm Alex Bell. As the city of Sacramento looks to close a $44 million deficit in its budget, leaders say job cuts and price increases are on the table. But what does all this mean? ABC10's Jeannie Nguyen joins us in studio tonight with a closer look.
Alex, budget meetings are expected to start next week. The city's latest proposed budget is looking to cut vacant positions, a skate park, and possibly raise prices at parking meters. It's something city leaders say they don't want to do, but believe it's necessary for the financial health of the city. Leaders within the city of Sacramento say they are preparing to pass a budget that will address a $44.1 million deficit. In order to close that gap, some tough decisions need to be made. The proposed budget looks to cut about 70 vacant jobs and about 12 filled positions. The city is also proposing removing more than 20 vacant positions within Sacramento Police. Councilmember Phil Pluckybaum says while these tough choices need to be made, it will benefit current city staff.
Using that funding to fund overtime for our existing officers to provide the service. So, cutting the funding for those vacant positions really is cutting overtime opportunities for other officers.
Councilmember Pluckybaum represents District 4, which includes Sutter's Landing Skate Park behind me here. The city's proposal does include shutting down this park, and dozens of positions within the city's Parks Department are also on the chopping block. But Pluckybaum says that there are future plans for Sutter's Landing.
The community's been asked to think about, what do you want out of Sutter's Landing? It's a massive regional park. It's a huge space, and we're getting, all the requests from, conservation, nature walks, wildlife habitat and refuge, and then also all the active recreation.
In addition to cuts, the city is considering raising prices at parking meters in the city. Mayor Kevin McCarty wasn't able to do an interview with ABC10 for this story, but in March, Mayor McCarty acknowledged the cuts are going to be challenging but necessary.
The options are all bad. Increasing fees, increasing revenue, which impact businesses and residents, or cutting services. So there are no good options, but we need to explore them all.
Ultimately, Pluckybaum encourages residents to be open-minded with the city's decisions, as they're intended to set the city up for long-term success.
If we take a less aggressive approach this year, next year we'll be making cuts again.
And the city will be presenting its proposed budget next Tuesday and pass a final budget in June. Last week, Sacramento Police told ABC10 if the budget is adopted as proposed, it's unclear how that will affect the department, but the current staff will still work to provide the service it's already giving to the community. Alex.
Thank you. While cities like Sacramento are facing budget deficits this year, the state is cautiously optimistic about its budget. Lawmakers will soon release its May revise, updating the governor's proposed budget based on the latest economic forecast. In January, Governor Newsom projected a $322 million surplus after 2 years of deficits, with nearly $17 billion in reserves. He says the plan won't raise taxes, and state revenue is currently up $16.5 billion. But that outlook could shift depending on changes from the Trump administration. We'll have a little bit more on the administration coming up in the show. In Yolo County today, opening statements were presented in the trial of Carlos Dominguez, who is accused of stabbing 3 people in Davis in 2023, killing 2 of them. ABC10's Roxana Leah spent the day in Yolo County Superior Court and has more on what happened.
Carlos Dominguez sat stoically for all of today's proceedings and opening statements. One of the first people to take the stand was Maria Bro, the sister of David Bro, who was the first victim in the Davis stabbings. The trial of Carlos Dominguez began Monday with the prosecution giving their opening statement in front of 18 jurors at Yolo County Superior Court.
To understand why this is going to be proven to be a deliberate, willful, and premeditated murder, you're going to need to go back further than when this kind of first comes to light, before David is found in the park.
Dominguez is accused of stabbing 3 people back in 2023. The victims include 50-year-old David Bro, who was known as the Compassion Guy. He was sleeping on a bench in Central Park when he was killed on April 27, 2023. The second victim was 20-year-old Karim Abu Najm, a UC Davis student who was walking in Sycamore Park when he was stabbed to death on April 29th. Then on May 1st, a homeless 64-year-old woman was stabbed in her tent but survived. 21-year-old Carlos Dominguez was arrested days later and is now facing 2 murder charges and 1 charge of attempted murder. His attorney, Daniel Hutchinson, said in his opening statement that he wasn't disputing Dominguez did the physical acts causing the deaths, but the events leading up to them.
The question to be answered in this trial is not one of who did it. Rather, the question that will be presented to you is what was Carlos Ruiz Dominguez's specific intent and mental state when he did those physical acts?
He says Dominguez got sick at some point before the incidents, but didn't recognize he was sick. He would later be diagnosed with schizophrenia. 2 men who found Davis's body at Central Park also took the stand and shared the conditions they found him in. The prosecution then ended the day with employees of the Davis Police Department detailing evidence from the day they found Bro at the park. The defense is asking jurors to reserve judgment until they hear all of the evidence.
Please keep in mind, as I mentioned earlier, that this trial is not just about the physical acts that Mr. Ruiz Dominguez did, but also what was happening in his mind when he did them.
The DA's office says proceedings will start daily at 9 o'clock in the morning, but that could change depending on several circumstances. In Woodland, Roxanne Elias, ABC 10.
The trial of former Major League Baseball player Daniel Saraphini is set to begin next week. Saraphini is accused of shooting his wife's parents during a burglary that led to the death of his father-in-law. The incident happened at the couple's home in Lake Tahoe back in 2021. Jury selection will start in Placer County Superior Court on the 13th. An investigation is underway in Stockton after officials say someone dumped a large container of motor oil into a storm drain. It happened near Klaus Court in West Lane, where about 300 gallons of oil were released. Crews are working on street cleanup, and there still is no sign that the oil has reached any nearby rivers. We will continue to follow this, though. And a refinery out in Benicia, Valero Refinery, caught fire today, triggering a shelter in place for nearby neighborhoods. Crews are now conducting air monitoring, and the cause of the fire remains under investigation. Valero announced just last month that it plans to close the refinery in 2026, citing high operational costs and strict environmental regulations in California. Next, on to the point, from the air to your backyard, how California is getting ready for wildfire season.
Good timing, too, because it's been a very windy day. Gusts still right now close to 30 miles per hour in Sacramento. All time out. How much longer we'll see these winds after the break.
Plus, Trump's immigration plan takes a dramatic new turn, why he now wants to reopen Alcatraz and pay migrants to leave the country. Well, it's Wildfire Awareness Week here in California, and emergency officials are urging everyone to get ready. Cal Fire opened its hangars at McClellan Airfield this afternoon to showcase its aircraft and cutting-edge tools they'll use this fire season. The state is relying on tools like the Fire Integrated Real-Time Intelligence System to help spot and contain fires early.
All the data that this aircraft is collecting, real-time data to incident commanders and those firefighters on the ground, allow us to make better decisions to contain those fires when they're small.
Officials say dry grass and high winds are already creating some dangerous conditions. They're pushing homeowners to create defensible space and take steps to harden their homes. And taking a live look over downtown Sacramento right now. Look, if you've been outside, it's been a really windy day in the valley. Let's get over to meteorologist Brendan Minchef because we are tracking a weather impact alert tonight, right?
Yeah, just for the next few hours until this wind advisory expires. We've had this wind advisory since yesterday morning, and it's still got 2 hours, or I guess about 90 minutes on it at this point. North winds sustained 15 to 30 miles per hour across the valley, but gusts 45 to 50 miles per hour, and as has been the case through the weekend, strongest along and west of Interstate 5. So here are current sustained winds, about 15 miles per hour Oroville and Sacramento, same down in Stockton, sustained winds 21 miles per hour in Modesto. We're also looking at winds 15 plus in the foothills. Here's a look at current gusts, though it is still very gusty outside. 30 in Oroville, 28 Sacramento, 24 Stockton, 25 miles per hour in Modesto, 15 to 25 miles per hour in the foothills as well. But again, those strongest winds in the upper part of the valley and especially west of Interstate 5 at the moment. So temperatures today were warm in part because of those north winds. 86 Sacramento Executive, 89 Stockton, 86 in Modesto this afternoon. Temperatures starting to come down just a little bit, but only by a few degrees. It's still 86 in Sacramento, 84 in Vacaville, 86 Stockton, 85 Manteca and Modesto, 82 in Colusa, 83 Roseville, 79 Jackson, 77 in Auburn, 57 Truckee. No delta breeze this evening to really quickly bring those winds down, so it is going to be a slower cool down through the evening. So again, strongest winds on the west side of the valley. Over the next couple of hours, though, that wind advisory does drop off at about 8 o'clock, and you can see why, because the winds do start to die down, but we're still going to have a fairly strong north wind on the west side of the Sacramento Valley all the way through the overnight and lasting into tomorrow morning as well. So I'm not talking about the winds going away completely. It's just that the wind speeds will drop through the overnight a little bit. Tomorrow afternoon, still breezy out of the north, but by the time we get to Tuesday evening, then we start to see some of that delta breeze returning. So Tuesday evening should be cooler than what we're seeing this evening. Starting tomorrow in those mid-50s in the valley, breezy through the overnight as well. Tomorrow afternoon, 86 Sacramento, 86 in Stockton, 86 in Modesto, 81 Jackson, 82 in Auburn, 79 up in Nevada City. The regional 5-day forecast, 70s the next couple days, then 80s in the foothills, 60s for the rest of the week in the high country. Here in the valley, we're looking at temperatures in those low to mid 80s, but near 90 by the end of the work week, Alex.
Next, on To the Point, President Trump's immigration crackdown escalates, why he wants to reopen Alcatraz and offer money to migrants to leave the U.S. Plus, final preparations are underway at the Vatican for the Conclave and the election of the next pope. What to expect starting tomorrow. New tonight, President Donald Trump's administration says it will pay $1,000 to immigrants who are in the U.S. illegally and return to their home country voluntarily. The Department of Homeland Security said in a news release that it would also pay for travel assistance and that people who use the CPB Home app to tell the government that they plan to return home will be deprioritized for detention and removal by immigration enforcement. The department said it had already paid for a plane ticket for one person to return home to Honduras from Chicago and said more tickets have already been booked. It comes as the president says that he wants to reopen Alcatraz prison. The prison last held inmates back in 1963, and it was closed due to the rising costs and later became a national park. Cornell Bernard visited the park today and explains what would actually need to happen for the prison to reopen.
It is my great pleasure to say welcome to your national park.
It's the place where more than 1 million tourists visit every year. Notorious Alcatraz prison, better known as The Rock, is both creepy and fascinating. Hollywood certainly thinks so.
I may have found a way out of here. No one has ever escaped from Alcatraz.
Alcatraz opened in the 1930s and closed in 1963. But now President Trump, posting on Truth Social, says he wants Alcatraz to be rebuilt and reopened as a federal prison to house some of the nation's most violent offenders.
It's a symbol of law and order.
Tourists visiting The Rock Monday were stunned by the idea.
I think it's one of the stupidest ideas I've ever heard in my life. It would cost billions of dollars to refit this.
We're from Australia and we're derived from convicts, but this is inhumane.
It's a good idea, sort of, but...
You think it's a good idea?
Yeah. I mean, for the bad prisoners, yeah.
Alcatraz was closed decades ago because the prison was 3 times more expensive to operate compared to other federal prisons.
Another reason why Alcatraz was closed is because it was literally crumbling from the outside in because all of the salt water and cold weather. Check it out, lots of peeling paint and disintegrating plaster.
Nancy Pelosi posting on X, Alcatraz is now a very popular national park and a major tourist attraction. The president's proposal is not a serious one. San Francisco Mayor Daniel Lurie brushing off the idea.
I think Speaker America Pelosi said it right about Alcatraz. This is not a serious proposal.
There's a lot we could use money on rather than renovating an ancient, crumbling museum on an island.
Former Alcatraz inmate Charlie Hopkins, now in his 90s, says Alcatraz is likely too old to be renovated.
No, I don't think he really wants to reopen it. He's trying to draw attention to the crime rate. When I was on Alcatraz, a rat couldn't survive.
At the time of its closure, the government determined roughly $5 million was needed just for the restoration and maintenance to keep Alcatraz open, which would amount to roughly $52 million in 2025 when accounting for inflation, of course. New tariffs went into effect over the weekend and are expected to drive up prices on car parts and clothes, among other things. Foreign-made car parts are now subject to a 25% tariff. Also facing economic headwinds, so-called low-value shipments from China. That's packages worth under $800. They now face a 120% tariff or a $100 package fee. The move impacts clothes, baby products, and toys often made in China. California today, along with 20 other states, filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration challenging the mass firings of roughly 10,000 Health and Human Services employees and the closure of key regional offices, including one in San Francisco. The lawsuit argues that the Make America Healthy Again directive from HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is unlawful and harmful, cutting vital programs like Head Start and tobacco enforcement. Bonta says the administration is overreaching and putting millions of Americans at risk. This is California's 17th lawsuit against the Trump administration. President Trump recently marked 100 days of his second term in office. The To The Point team spent an hour breaking down the president's actions and their impact on California. You can watch our special called California and Trump's First 100 Days right now on the free ABC10 Plus TV streaming app. The conclave to elect the next pope begins in less than 48 hours. We know that 133 eligible cardinals have begun arriving at the Vatican, where they will cast their ballots at the Sistine Chapel. Patrick Revel is in Rome as preparations are underway.
Here at the Vatican, the final preparations for the conclave on Wednesday are now being completed. From tomorrow, the cardinal electors will begin being able to move into the Casa Santa Marta, where they will live in isolation. Today, the around 80 or so staff who will be locked in with them swore an oath pledging total secrecy. The Vatican says it will also use signal jamming during the conclave. Workers are even sealing up the windows of the cardinals' rooms to ensure total seclusion. In general, anticipation is building. We see the cardinals coming and going, dodging journalists as they come out of the Vatican. In the final days, there have also been accusations of smear campaigns here. The frontrunner, Cardinal Parolin, was targeted with a fake report that he had suffered a fainting fit. The Vatican denying that, but a glimpse perhaps into some of the divisions going into this conclave. There are those who want to continue the more liberal legacy of Pope Francis and those who want someone more conservative. Patrick Revel, ABC News, Rome.
To learn more about the conclave process, make sure you head over to our ABC10 Plus TV streaming app. You can watch In the News Now, where we explain the traditions and procedures, including the oath of secrecy taken by the cardinals. The app is free to download to your TV. Next, on To The Point, honoring our fallen officers, a moving tribute at the state capitol today to remember those who gave their lives in the line of duty. There was a tribute today for fallen peace officers across our state. Officers gathered at the Capitol today for the 47th Annual Peace Officers Memorial. The ceremony honors officers who lost their lives in the line of duty. The event began at the CHP Academy with a procession of patrol vehicles, motorcycles, horses, and officers on foot. It ended at the California Peace Officers Memorial Monument on Capitol Mall. The ceremony included a walk of honor, a roll call of heroes, and a 21-gun salute to honor the fallen. As always, thank you so much for watching and inviting us into your home. If you have something that you think me and the team should be looking into, you already know you can email us at tothepoint@abc10.com. Remember, strangers are just people we haven't got the chance to meet yet, so take the time to get to know someone. And To the Point does not end here. If you want to catch any of our content, make sure you download our free ABC 10 Plus streaming app. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a great night.